Danfo offers unparalleled, curated, and bespoke tours across Africa for travelers seeking genuine cultural experiences, enriched with magnificent sights, sounds, and flavors found on the continent. Each trip is reliably curated to ensure visitors are gifted with an immersive and authentic adventure. Whether you find yourself strolling along the charming white sand beaches of Sierra Leone, feasting on the mouth-watering delicious foods in Senegal, observing or partaking in various aspects of the Isheshe traditional system Ifa native to Yoruba land, Nigeria, with Danfo, you will rediscover a fulfilling sense of kinship to the true heart of the motherland, her communities. Our core values focus on integrity, quality, safety, and sustainability. We are uniquely committed to assisting with the advancement of African infrastructure and promoting African businesses, so both travelers and the communities they visit receive beneficial exchanges. At Danfo, we understand the importance of connectivity, and we have created a model which provides bespoke experiences based on your passions or hobbies. With us, expect a long-lasting spiritual bond between you and your destinations. Live, love, Danfo, Africa. To learn more, visit danfo.africa.
Peace, family. We are live. Let me get this together so I won't break apart. We are live again. Dynasty Mirror Search for Huru. Thank you all. Thank you so much for joining. Make sure you hit that like button again. Please hit that like button. Also, make sure you share and subscribe. I will greatly appreciate it. So happy to see you all, even though I can't actually see you. I'm just thankful that you guys are here in the building. Hey, we leave for Sierra Leone on Saturday. On Saturday, we leave for Sierra Leone, and I am looking forward to it. I cannot wait. I'm looking forward to Sierra Leone. We're gonna have a great time, you guys, in Sierra Leone. Gonna eat some good crane, some good cassava, some lobster on River Number 2. You know, we're gonna have a good time, you guys. So hit the like button. Also, make sure you share and subscribe. You know, you guys know the routine. You know the drill. You know that's your price to enter the building. Got a couple of announcements. We are rolling to Cape Town. Again, we are rolling to Cape Town. That is March 25th through April 2nd. March 25th through April 2nd for the Cape Town Jazz Festival. If you guys are interested in joining us in Cape Town, please visit danfo.africa. And guys, make sure when you watch this, go to Danfo and subscribe to the newsletter. That's your guys' price for entry. I need everybody who watches this to go to danfo.africa and subscribe to the newsletter. I'll greatly appreciate that. And guys, I'm gonna call you. I just called somebody who bought my documentary 3 years ago, and she was like, I don't expect people who actually create the documentary and are in the documentary to call. I'm like, nah, if you guys give me your phone number, I'm calling. Again, if you guys give me your phone number, I am going to call you. You're going to get a phone call. Do I take shots? No, I don't. And this is not medical advice. Somebody asked me, when you travel to Africa, do you take shots before leaving? I don't, but at the same time, this is not medical advice. Please seek advice from a medical professional. I'm not a medical professional. But no, I don't do the malaria pills. I don't do all that. But I'm not you and you aren't me. So that's why you need to seek the advice from a medical professional. Okay. So go to danfo.africa. We're going to Cape Town in March. We're going to Senegal in May for another jazz festival. That's May 9th to the 18th. We're going to Nigeria in August for the Oshun Festival. We are going to Zanzibar in September. And then we are rolling to Ghana and Ivory Coast in that's in November. So please visit Downfall.Africa to learn more. Love to host you guys on one of the trips. Love to host you guys. Let's jump into today's topic, the travel ban. And I wanted to cover this because people have been texting me and calling, kind of panic. Well, we're gonna lay down the facts of the travel ban and where I stand. I understand why some of the countries are on the list. Some of the countries should not be on the list, but we'll get into all that. But let me start off with this. If you have, man, where's my passport at? Where's my U.S. passport? Here we go. If you have a U.S. passport, okay, if you're a U.S. citizen, you're fine. All right. Like, so prime example, when I travel to Sierra Leone, I'm going to have my Sierra Leonean passport. I'm going to have my U.S. passport. I'm good. I can get back into America. I'll be fine because I'm a U.S. citizen. So I'm good to go. The only time that you would want to be concerned, even if you have a U.S. passport and a passport of any country, not just Africa, but any country at all, is if that country, if they're in the red, I think it's level 4. Level 4, I think it is. They're in the red. I think it's level 4. If they're in let me it's on the Secretary of State side. Hold on, let me go to Secretary of State real quick. Secretary of State. Oh, no, is it not the Secretary of State? The come on, Dinus. The travel alerts with the U.S. government, not the State Department. I'm sorry, Secretary of State. The State Department. If you are in the red, like let's see, current travel advisory levels. We'll pull this up real quick. We'll just say Burkina Faso. So Burkina Faso's in the red. All right. Let me pull this up. Let me shift this over here. So Burkina Faso's in the red. So if you happen to be a dual citizen of Burkina Faso, so you have a U.S. passport, and we'll just say this, my Sierra Leone passport is a Burkina Faso passport, they can, coming back to America, they can give you some trouble. So it could be an issue. So just take in consideration, if you are a dual citizen in your country that you're going to, the country that you have your passport from or you're a citizen of, if that country is in the red and you're trying to get back to America, you can have a problem. You can have a problem if it's level 4. Okay. If it's on the do not travel to list, you can have an issue. All right. But for the most part, outside of that, if you just have a U.S. passport, or even if you're a dual citizen and the country is not level 4, you're good to go. There's nothing to panic over. But I wanted to go over this fact sheet real quick and dive into it. Because like I said, people have been hitting me up concerned. I'm like, listen, you're good to go. You're fine. You're good to go. All right, so this is from President Donald J. Trump, the White House fact sheet. President Donald J. Trump further restricts and limits the entry of foreign nationals to protect the security of the United States. Some of them, I like, okay, I get it. I might not agree, but I'll say I get it. And some I'm like, they shouldn't be on this list. Because I think I saw Senegal on the list. And I'm like, why is Senegal even on the list? All right, here we go. Strengthening national security through common sense restrictions based on data. Today, President Donald J. Trump signed a proclamation expanding and strengthening entry restrictions on nationals from countries with demonstrated persistent and severe deficiencies in screening, vetting, and information sharing to protect the nation from national security and public safety threats. Okay. The proclamation continues the full restrictions and entry limitations of nationals from the original 12 high risk countries established under Proclamation 10949. Afghanistan, yeah, they more than likely be on the list. Burma, I don't know much about Burma, but I get it. Chad, yeah, Republic of the Congo, there's a lot going on in Congo. Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti. We know what's going on we know what's going on in Eritrea, well, in Haiti, Iran, Libya. Well, thank you, Obama, for Libya. Somalia, yeah, of course, Somalia. Sudan, we see what's going on in the Sudan with the UAE funding that war in Yemen. Yeah. It adds full restrictions and entry limitations on 5 additional countries based on recent analysis: Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger. So the whole, that's the whole Sahel alliance states. They're all on it now. South Sudan and Syria. It also adds full restriction. Okay. It also adds full restrictions and entry limitations on individuals holding Palestinian Authority issued travel documents. So one thing I noticed, a lot of these countries is a predominantly Muslim list, which, let me say this, the have been muted this whole time. Y'all was muted this whole time. Man, I was muted this whole time. Hold on. How long was I muted for? Okay, let me start over. Let me start over. I was muted this whole time. All right, fact sheet. President Donald J. Trump further restricts and limits the entry of foreign nationals to protect security of the United States. I'm gonna say this. I don't know how I muted myself. I don't know how I muted myself. I'll say this. Some of the countries on the list, I get it. There's some of the countries on the list, I like don't agree with. So we're gonna go through this because a lot of people they have been I was muted. Okay, you heard the very beginning. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you heard the intro. I don't know how I muted myself. Fact sheet, President Donald Trump. Well, guys, we're gonna get into. They're very specific on why some countries were banned. Fact sheet, President Donald J. Trump further restricts and limits the entry of foreign nationals to protect the security of the United States, strengthening the national security through common sense restrictions based on data. Today, President Donald J. Trump signed a proclamation expanding and strengthening entry restrictions on nationals from countries with demonstrated persistent and severe deficiencies in screening, vetting, and information sharing to protect the nation from national security and public safety threats. So there's the reason right there. Now, if you guys disagree with that, with their reasoning, how this data is, how they get this, how this data is acquired, I don't know. But that's the reason some of these countries are on the list. The proclamation continues the full restrictions and entry limitations of nationals from the original 12 high-risk countries established under Proclamation 10949. Afghanistan, completely understand why. Like, you won't get an argument from me over Afghanistan. I don't know much about Burma, Chad. Don't know much about Chad. I'll be honest. Republic of the Congo. Well, we know the eastern part of the Congo is just a mess. Yeah, the eastern part of the Congo is just a mess. So yeah, and then also too, maybe they might come off the list since there's a peace treaty in quotation marks that Trump helped negotiate. So maybe they'll get off the list. You never know. Equatorial Guinea, dictator's been over Equatorial Guinea since the late 70s. Eritrea, same thing. The dictator runs that country. Haiti, I hate to use this word because we all know the history of Haiti, but Haiti is currently what they would consider, not all of Haiti, but parts of Haiti. But we're talking about all of Haiti, a failed state. It is what it is. Iran, yeah, I understand why Iran. Libya, thank you, Obama, for Libya. Somalia, yeah, I'm not going to argue about Somalia. Sudan, we know what's going on in Sudan with the United Emirates. Is it Emirates? Well, anyways, those Arab countries are funding the war there. Yemen, completely understand why Yemen. So, for the most part, the countries that are on the list outside of Haiti, because there's way more nuance to it, and we could say the Congo. I understand why they're on this list. And I would probably add Sudan. It has full restrictions and entry limitations on 5 additional countries based on recent analysis: Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. So that's the whole AES. They're on the list now. South Sudan, you got the war there, and Syria. I don't agree with it, but I understand why the AES is on the list. Like, I understand why. I don't agree with it, but I understand why. Did you guys hear me when I was talking about if it's a level 4 country? Did you guys hear that part when we're talking about the travel warnings? Did you guys hear that part? Okay, you heard that part. Yeah, I don't know how I muted myself. Let's see here. It also adds full restrictions and entry limitations on individuals holding Palestinian Authority issued travel documents. Okay. I'm more concerned about the African countries. That's where my concern is, to be honest. It imposes full restrictions and entry limitations on 2 countries that were previously subject to partial restrictions: Laos and Sierra Leone. We'll get into Sierra Leone since I'm Sierra Leonean. There's some stuff going on in Sierra Leone, allegedly. The proclamation continues partial restrictions of nationals from 4 of the 7 original high-risk countries: Burundi, Cuba, Togo, and Venezuela. Why Togo is on there, I'm not sure. Burundi, I don't know much about Burundi. Um, Cuba and Venezuela, again, I'm more focused on Africa. I know with Togo, I think the president just redid the constitution so he could stay in office longer. Uh, and I know it's been the same family that's pretty much been over Togo for like the last couple of decades. So, because Turkmenistan has engaged productively with the United States and demonstrated significant progress since the previous proclamation, this new proclamation lifts the ban on its non-immigrant visas while maintaining the suspension of entry for Turkmen nationals as immigrants. Okay. It adds partial restrictions and entry limitations on 15 additional countries: Angola, Antigua, Barbuda, Benin, Cote d'Ivoire, Dominica, Gabon, the Gambia, Malawi, Mauritania, Nigeria, Senegal, Tanzania, Tonga, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. Now, a lot of this plays as well people overstaying their visas. Again, a lot of this has to do with people overstaying their visas as well. We'll get into that. The proclamation includes exceptions for lawful permanent residents, existing visa holders, certain visa categories like athletes and diplomats, and individuals whose entry serves U.S. national interests. I want to get into the athletes part. And let's see, certain visa categories. So not just athletes and diplomats, but other visa categories. If you're proven to offer value to the United States of America, they'll make an exception for you. And that's just life. Again, that's just life, you guys. In life, we're in a performance-based reality society. If you perform, if you're good at what you do, if you excel at what you do, people will make exceptions for you and let you skip a line. That's just life. Oh, I got the Congos mixed up. I'm sorry. I got the Congos mixed up. Sorry about that. I apologize. Republic of the Congo, not the DRC. Okay. Yeah, I mixed that up. I'm sorry. So the DRC is not on the list, but the Republic of the Congo is. Okay. It has partial restrictions and entry limitations. Angola and I already read that. The proclamation excludes exceptions for lawful permanent residents existing. Right. The proclamation narrows broad family-based immigrant visa curve outs that carry demonstrated fraud risk while preserve case-by-case waivers. So, family-based immigrant visa carve-outs that carry demonstrated fraud risk. So, listen, all my Nigerian brothers who are hustling draws for green cards. Again, all my Nigerian brothers who are hustling draws for green cards. That means you. All the sisters who are meeting these brothers on Facebook. Yeah, the Nigerian man is more romantic than a Black American man. They talking about y'all. Trump is like, not so fast. Oh, he loves me. Yeah, Trump is shutting that down. So the hustling draws from green cards, the hustling draws for green cards slide in your inbox on Facebook Messenger. That is, y'all gonna take a hit. I mean, it is what it is. The African man more romantic than the Black American man. He more romantic. Okay, all right. Hey, I ain't hating. Hey, what goes on between two consenting adults is none of my business. It's none of my business. We all listen, we all adults here. But the hustling draws for green cards, y'all gonna take a hit. Oh, I don't know what to tell you guys. I ain't cock blocking. Trump cock blocking. So y'all gonna have to fly out to Lagos to see your Nigerian lover. Again, y'all gonna have to fly out to Lagos. Listen, Delta fly direct from Atlanta. Again, Delta flies direct to Atlanta. You can fly United to Lagos out of DC. Y'all gonna have to go over there. It is what it is. It is what it is. Let's see here. Securing our borders and interests. The restrictions and limitations imposed by the proclamation are necessary to prevent the entry of foreign nationals about whom the United States lacks sufficient information to assess the risk they pose, garner cooperation from foreign governments, enforce our immigration laws, and advance other important foreign policy, national security, and counterterrorism objectives. It is the president's duty to take action to ensure that those seeking to enter our country will not harm the American people. After consulting with cabinet officials and in light of the original report pursuant to Executive Order 14161, Proclamation 10949, and country-specific information gathered since, President Trump has determined that entry of nationals from additional countries must be restricted or limited to protect U.S. national security and public safety interests. The restrictions are country-specific in order to encourage cooperation with the subject countries and the recognition of each country's unique circumstances. So there's a way to get off the list. Many of the restricted countries suffer from widespread corruption, fraudulent or unreliable civil documents and criminal records, and non-existent birth registration systems, systematically preventing accurate vetting. Now, do you guys disagree with that? Now that we got the reason, now that we're getting into the meat of why. Many of the restricted countries suffer from widespread corruption. Do you guys disagree with that? Point by point, do you guys disagree with that? Who disagrees? Who disagrees with this? Fraudulent or unreliable civil documents and criminal records. Do you guys disagree with this? You disagree? And non-existent birth registration systems systematically preventing accurate vetting. You guys disagree? Some nations refuse to share passport exemplars or law enforcement data, while others permit citizenship by investment schemes that conceal identity and bypass vetting requirements and travel restrictions. You guys disagree? Are they making this? Do you disagree with what Trump is saying here? Some countries' high visa overstay rates and refusal to repatriate removable nationals demonstrate disregard for U.S. immigration laws and burden American enforcement resources. Do you guys disagree with that? Terrorist presence, criminal activity, and extremist activity in several listed countries result in a general lack of stability and government control, which causes deficient vetting capabilities and poses direct risk to American citizens and interests. when nationals from these countries are admitted to the United States. You guys disagree with that? Making America safe again. All right. This terrorist presence, criminal activity, extremist activity. So, yeah, I already read that. Making America safe again. President Trump is keeping his promise to restore travel restrictions on dangerous countries and to secure our borders. In his first term, President Trump imposed travel restrictions that restricted entry from several countries with inadequate vetting processes or that pose significant security risks. The Supreme Court upheld the travel restrictions put in place in the prior administration, ruling that it is squarely within the scope of presidential authority and noting that it is expressly premised on legitimate purposes, namely preventing entry of nationals who cannot be adequately vetted and inducing other nations to improve their practices. In June 2025, President Trump restored the travel restrictions for the first time, incorporating an updated assessment of current global screening, vetting, and security risks. All right, here goes the justification. We're just going to focus on the African countries. Burkina Faso. According to the State Department, terrorist organizations continue to plan and conduct terrorist activities throughout Burkina Faso. From my understanding, in the north, there might be some truth to that. According to the fiscal year 2024 Department of Homeland Security Entry Exit Overstay Report, Burkina Faso had a B1, B2 visa overstay rate of 9.16% and a student F, vocational M, and exchange visitor J visa overstay rate of 22.95%. Additionally, Burkina Faso has historically refused to set back its removable nationals. If you guys disagree with that, you're more than welcome to call in. Mali. According to the State Department of State, armed conflict between the Malian government and armed groups is common throughout the country. Terrorist organizations operate freely in certain areas of Mali. That's true. That I could confirm that. That's true. That's true. Like there's no argument about that. Northern Mali is, you got all types of radical Islamic insurgents and terrorist organizations. That's true. That's not a lie. Niger, according to the Department of State, terrorists and their supporters are active in planning kidnappings in Niger, and they may attack anywhere in the country. According to the overstay report, Niger had a B1, B2 visa overstay rate of 13.41% and an F, M, and J visa overstay of 16.46%. That's true as well. Sierra Leone, my country, according to the overstay report, Sierra Leone had a B1, B2 overstay rate of 16.48% and an FM and J visa overstay rate of 35.83%. Oh, that's pretty high. According to the 2023 overstay report, Sierra Leone had a B1, B2 visa overstay rate of 50.43% and an FM and J visa overstay rate of 35.83%. Additionally, Sierra Leone has historically failed to set back its removable nationals. South Sudan. According to the overstay report, South Sudan had a B1, B2 visa overstay rate of 6.99% and an FM and J visa overstay rate of 26.09%. Additionally, South Sudan has historically failed to set back its removable nationals. Okay. Angola. According to overstay, so primarily with the African countries, Angola, Benin, Cote d'Ivoire, Gabon, Gambia, Malawi, Mauritania. Okay, here we go. Nigeria. Radical Islamic terrorist groups such as Boko Haram and Islamic State operate freely in certain parts of Nigeria. That's true. I mean, that's like you can't that's the reality of Nigeria right now. They pretty much operate and do what they want in the north. in parts of the north. That's reality. That's true. Which creates substantial screening and vetting difficulties. According to the overstay report, Nigeria had a B1, B2 visa overstay rate of 5.56% and an FMNJ visa overstay rate of 11.9%. But this at the beginning, that's reality. That's true. Senegal, according to the overstay report, Senegal had a B1, B2 visa overstay rate of 4.3% and an FMNJ visa overstay rate of 13.07%. Okay, same thing with Tanzania, Zambia, Zimbabwe. So, guys, I'll put the link in the chat room. If you guys disagree with this, hey, you're more than welcome to call in and say, hey, Diners, I disagree. But hey, links in the chat room. We'll take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back. But call in.
Danful offers unparalleled, curated, and bespoke tours across Africa for travelers seeking genuine cultural experiences, enriched with magnificent sights, sounds, and flavors found on the continent. Each trip is reliably curated to ensure visitors are gifted with an immersive and authentic adventure. Whether you find yourself strolling along the charming white sand beaches of Sierra Leone, feasting on the mouth-watering delicious foods in Senegal, observing or partaking in various aspects of the Isheshe traditional system Ifa native to Yoruba land, Nigeria, with Danful, you will rediscover a fulfilling sense of kinship to the true heart of the motherland, her communities. Our core values focus on integrity, quality, safety, and sustainability. We are uniquely committed to assisting with the advancement of African infrastructure and promoting African businesses, so both travelers and the communities they visit receive beneficial exchanges. At Danful, we understand the importance of connectivity, and we have created a model which provides bespoke experiences based on your passions or hobbies. With us, expect a long-lasting spiritual bond between you and your destinations. Live, love, Danful, Africa. To learn more, visit danful.africa.
Yeah, guys, links in the chat room if you want to call in and add to the conversation. If you disagree, then hey, Dennis, I disagree that Trump is overstepping and he shouldn't be able to do this. Link is in the chat room. There was something else. Okay, so what of India and China that their citizens are more over than any other African country? Well, this is the reality. Like I said, if you're adding value, right? We know when it comes to tech, the role Indians play. If you're adding value, people will make exceptions. And then don't get me started on China. That's just how it is. Again, guys, links in the chat room. You're more welcome to call in. I was getting a lot of calls of people who are just panicking and, oh my God, am I going to be able to leave the country and get back into the country? If you have a U.S. passport, you're fine. If you have a U.S. passport, you're good to go. You're fine. It doesn't apply to you. Now, unfortunately, if you have family or you got somebody that you are complicit in hustling draws for green cards with, in like Nigeria, you hustling draws for green cards, got you a Nigeria boo, Babatunde and Zinkwe, Babatunde Namdi in Nigeria, and you was trying to get him over, you might have some problems now. Trump is putting a halt to the hustling draws for green cards for right now. What if countries started banning U.S. citizens? Man, they want to make it reciprocal. Hey, go for it. Again, if they want to reciprocate and say, "Hey, you know what? If you're," but the question would be, what would be the reason? So I'll give you an example. Let's use the Senegal's on the list. I think is Senegal on the list or the Gambia. The Gambia is on the list. So what can the Gambia leverage and say? Say, hey, listen, if you're gonna have a ban on us, we're gonna have a ban on you. For what reason? Like, what would be the reason? Like, how many? I guess are a lot of Americans overstaying their visas. Uh, Now there's a lot of hustling draws for green cards going on in Gambia too. Now Gambia is the sex tourist capital of Africa. People who are felons in the USA should not be allowed in any West African nation. Hey, Elvis. That's up to the leaders. But the leaders, they come out and say that, hey, if you're a convicted felon, you can't come to the country. Hey, man, that's their right. Again, that's their right. That's what they wanted to do. But look, if no one's gonna call in, we'll go ahead and close out. But yeah, I was just wanting to go through this because people have been panicking, because it's Trump. So they'll take something like this. They'll take the headline travel ban, and instead of like reading the actual fact sheet, they'll just run with it and say, "Oh, I can't get back into the country." No, that's not. Listen. That's not how it so there's a link in the chat room. Okay, if you want to call in, somebody said I don't know how to call in. There's a link. I'll post it in the chat room. You just click on the link. Thank God they gave my Nigerian wife her marriage-based visa already. But yeah, if you want to call in, you just click on the link. Links in the chat room. You click on that link. You can call in and add to the convo. That's how you call in. Stephen Ford 8139. So yeah, if African countries said they want to ban felons from coming to the country, then I don't know how they would go about vetting that. So I'll give you an example. When I had my residency, I have to renew my residency, and I have to actually renew my residency in Senegal. Like one of the things I had to do, I had to go to the embassy in Senegal in Almaty, and it's called an attestation. Attestation, where you just say, "Hey, I'm of good character. I don't have a criminal record. Let me get this signed so I get my residency." No. That was for when I was. So I'm still in the process of getting my citizenship in Senegal. I don't know where it's at. I don't know. Like there's like one document I need. I've been trying to get this document for like the past two years. Right, right. That's my point. A lot of people are not reading the fine print of this new immigration policy and start panicking. Well, I was telling somebody the other day, I didn't want to get political. It was worse under Obama. With the U.S. passport, before I had dual citizenship, coming coming back into America under Obama. Oh man, the harassment that went on by these border agents, the stupid questions they would ask. It was worse under Obama. But people don't want to have that conversation, I guess. But again, if you guys anybody disagrees with Trump and his reasons, okay. Prince Steve, go ahead.
Hey, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay. Um, I've been seeing that he's been expanding the list of the travel bans, and I really think that it's because of so many Africans that are coming to America and getting educated. Um, it's it's sad to see it. I think Africans have contributed so much to American society, and I actually think it might actually be a good thing in the long run because Africans can go back and build up West Africa. Um, I actually know an African brother that he's from Nigeria. He pretty much went to engineering school twice. He went to engineering school in Nigeria, and he's doing engineering school here. So I just think that a lot of Africans are so educated and well versed and knowledgeable. I think that knowledge should be used to build Africa. We have engineers here in the United States that are working on nuclear power plants, nuclear weapons, and that stuff should be for African nations. That stuff should be for AES, the Sahel region, Burkina Faso. I just think that West African nations need to be liberated. They need to develop the military over there, the infrastructure. Those engineers could do a lot more in West Africa than they could here in America. I mean, here, we're you're just one fish in a big pond versus over there you're a big fish in a small pond. That's all I gotta say.
All right, go ahead, Aldo. Aldo, you gotta unmute yourself.
Okay, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so hi everyone. Thank you. Yeah, can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Yeah. First of all, I thank Danist for this platform and for this subject. It's always refreshing to have him addressing important subject like this. So I thank him for that, and I would like to share, I mean, my experience and also my views about the Trump ban. I think that this ban is just the official, the official step of the ban. But actually, we African have been banned from visa for ages. I mean, and even for wrong reasons. For example, me, I'm an African and I live abroad. I have travel experience. I have a job, but I was banned a tourist visa to visit to visit USA. And I'm not the only one. I even know some other Africans who are university teachers, and they had invitation to attend and to take part to academic meetings, and they were banned their visa.
Aldo, if you don't mind me asking, which country are you from?
I'm from Gabon, and I live in Japan. Hello, hello.
Okay, continue.
Yeah, and then I'm not the only one. And then when I talk to other Africans who are living here, all residents, they have good jobs, education. For example, me, I even have two master's degrees and working experience and etc. When I was in Africa, I had many Schengen visa to visit Europe, so I don't represent an immigration risk. But to them, once they saw my passport, it even lasted maybe 2 minutes. I submitted my passport. He looked at my passport and he just said to me, "It won't be possible this time." I was shocked, and I asked, "On which ground?" And he told me, "Please, next person."
Hey,
And
Aldo, how did so the so there are people from Gabon who are in this country, but at the same time, Ali
Mhm.
Bongo. Can you tell us more about Ali Bongo?
Yeah, Ali Bongo. I mean, the former head of the state dictator who got boot out. Yeah.
How did he get put out?
Hmm? Come
How did
again?
he get put? How did he get put out?
I mean, there was a coup. There was a coup, and he was kicked out. This is how he lost power, but he wasn't in good terms with France. I think that's why they let him down. That's why they let him down.
Okay, go ahead, Elvis.
Thank you.
Elvis, you got to unmute yourself.
All right, thank you, Dennis. Hello to the panel. Look, I mean, like I said in the chat, right? It's almost like retribution for some of these countries for not capitulating to the United States demand. Because take my country, Liberia, for example. We have like one of the highest overstay rates when it comes to visa overstay. I think it's in like the 60% of our people overstay their visa, and we got a visa extension, from 1 year to 3 years, and we got taken off the list because we agreed to take, Kilmar, Alberto Garcia in Liberia, even though he has no connection to the country. So we are just kind of being the United States, lapdog when it comes to their foreign policy, and agreeing to take, deportees to Africa. I think we're probably the only country that accepted to take them. So it's retribution because, and when I say felons, because if you're coming to the United States, Diners, you have to have a police clearance, what they call a police clearance. You have to go to the police station, verify that you have no criminal records to even be allowed to come into this country. So if other people are going to go into Africa, they have to show that they're not felons, they're not criminal, they're not going to be a danger to society. That's why I proposed what I proposed. But so I guess Liberia is safe for now. It's not restricted, so that's a good thing. That's a
Oh, can I say something?
Go ahead.
Um, I think with Liberia, and I know that us African Americans have a connection with Liberia, but I feel like with Liberia, like as talking about the African Americans in Liberia, I feel like I feel like the Americo Liberians, if I'm saying that right, should be connected with the Africans, the rebel Africans, if somebody wants to call it that. I think all of Africa, they just need coups all around there. I think Africa needs to be independent. of any colonial mindset. I just think that for all African people, I wish Nigeria could get on board with that. I just feel like it could be like a whole new world order, a multipolar world order, if Africa and African governments unite in Pan-Africanism and take back the continent and the resources. Right now, I don't think anywhere is safe. We see what's going on in Venezuela right now. Venezuela is pretty much under attack. That can be Africa against the United States. I think Africa needs to really develop its military. I think the military alliances need to get stronger. And I think Liberia has to get on board. Like, Liberia, to me, what's representative of Liberia, I've never been there, but it's almost like it almost identifies as an American country. Like, there's a strong sector of people that identify as an American country. And I don't think that white Americans even consider Liberia as an American offspring country. I just, Liberia is more African than it is American. And I just think that Liberia needs to get on with AES, the Sahel region, Traore. I hate what I'm seeing from Nigeria, and I hate what I'm seeing from France. I just think that Africa just needs to reinvent itself.
All right. Let me say this when it comes to Liberia, right? You're right. We have a historic relationship with the United States. We call ourselves the stepchild of the United States, and our current government has been working tirelessly behind the scene to make sure that we have a good relationship with the United States. And it's done a good enough job. So that's what I see.
All right, go ahead, Amara. Unmute yourself, Amara. Unmute yourself.
Hello, how y'all doing?
Doing good.
Can you
Go
hear
ahead.
me?
Yes.
Yeah. I seen this band list from yesterday, and I was going through them, and most of these countries are African countries, and here's the thing I got a problem with. I personally do not have a problem with papers issues or whatever. I was lucky to be born in this country, although I grew up in Sierra Leone before I moved back. Trump is a transactional president. Okay, if this is a money thing, most Africans when they buy tickets and they send the kids for education purposes, or even people coming in on any type of visa. People sell houses, land, a whole bunch of other things. You see what I'm trying to say? For educational purposes. So if you categorize, you got to vet. This is just bringing me in the whole vacuum cleaner, because these people are non-whites and you just suck everything out instead of layering it. You see what I'm trying to say? The workforce is smaller. You don't, if you're bringing in the next generation of guys, okay, who do you want from this country? You say the best. People will, if there's a pathway, people will sell houses, land, save money, do whatever they got to do to set up their kids so you can recruit the best, if that's the priority. But to outright ban everybody, just outright ban just because Africans are black, it doesn't make any sense. You got to really.
Amara, did you were you here at the beginning of the show when I read the reasons why they were banning certain countries?
Yeah, I went to some. They say overstaying visas. Mm-hmm. Okay, you see, this is prior to Trump. I'm talking. Well, he's doing it for the people going forward. Do you
Well,
see
yeah,
where
I
I'm
mean,
coming from?
right, but people, they enforce the rules sometimes. Some people
Yeah,
don't
I
get
know
that.
they enforce the rules. Yeah, but going forward, who do you want? In the past, it was just a floodgate, if you want to call it a floodgate. In the future, there's parts of your population that I really would like that would help America. What part of these populations can even Iran and America never got along? There are a lot of Iranians that were brought in that work for NASA. Yeah, when Iran was the guy right there, they had a war. They had Iranians that work for NASA, and work in nuclear plants, work in different places that helped America. So you just can't discard the whole population. You can cherry pick what will benefit you. That's what I'm trying to say going forward.
Mar, this is coming from a Black American who's African, who's a citizen of Africa. Have you been a little? Have you been to Little Iran in Westwood in L.A.?
In Detroit?
No, in L.A., Los Angeles, Little Iran.
No, I never been there. I've been to Detroit. I've seen them in Detroit.
Right. I want the African equivalent or Black immigrant equivalent here in America. Look at Little Tokyo. Look at Koreatown. Look at Chinatown. Like, what's the Black immigrant equivalent?
You got to set the standards to vet. They're there, but you got to set the standard. You'll be like, okay, well, I'm not totally banning your whole country. I want the most productive guys that will help me. So, on a country by country basis, you do a feasibility study. You find out which ones are the people that will really help this country, that love this country, that will contribute to this country. They're there, but you got to do the work instead of just outright blanket ban.
Right, but
that's racial.
Hold on, Mar. They did say that if you have a certain visa, you still could come to the country.
Yeah, no, but what I'm trying to say is they say wealthy is just vague. There's no specificity. There's somebody I know that does iron ore mining in Sierra Leone. When he went to the U.S. Embassy, the thing was vague. There's nothing specific. He showed his bank account. He showed what he had, how much money he had. It was he had 2 degrees. It was hard. He couldn't find a job. He found his way up to the mines, and he's made his money. He went over there. He's doing all his paperwork, but there's no specificity by country. It's just vague. They didn't do the work. That's what I'm trying to say.
But let me ask you: does the United States owe that to your friend?
No. What I'm trying to say, if you're going with a premise that I want good guys here, I don't want bad guys. They had to open the floodgates. The screening process was messy. They didn't take into consideration people that love this country and people want to contribute. If you're going on that premise, okay. You see what I'm trying to say?
Amar, do you know what a Wonderlic test is?
A what test?
Wonderlic test.
I have no idea.
So a Wonderlic test is like a test you take before you get a job, right? That grades and rates your like personality and how you would make certain decisions, right? If you're on the job for that company. You want to know how to pass the Wonderlic test?
Yeah, educate me.
You lie. So of course, everyone who's interested in coming to the United States of America, when they go to that embassy, they're all gonna have the same story. They're all gonna say how they're gonna contribute, how well they're gonna do, and how they're gonna build this and do that. It's of course they are. But what Trump is saying is there's no problem. Like the countries don't give them enough information on these people who are seeking the visas for them the country on, for seeking visas for them to go by to make a decision they're gonna let them into America or not. That's what the problem is.
No, that's vague. I'm still on this vague thing.
It's not
And
vague.
they're not committing. No, wait a minute.
Everyone's gonna say the same thing.
What I'm trying to say, you got to commit.
I do the reverse. I do the reverse. Black Americans, we're getting citizenship in Sierra Leone. We're all gonna say we're gonna come build Sierra Leone. We love Africa, home of our ancestors, and they took us away against our own free will. We're all gonna say that we built America so we could build Africa. Only about 15 or 20% are actually gonna do something.
Is that a win?
No, that's just reality. And what I'm saying,
but that's what I'm trying to say.
It's the same. It's the same thing. Go for those coming to America. They're all gonna go and say, "Oh yeah, we love America. We're gonna be great. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. We're gonna do this. We're gonna contribute to this, to contribute to that." And it's just only about.
Okay, what about? Let me propose this. I got a proposition. What about a conditional visa, which is reevaluated every year?
God, Amara. The problem is for your conditional visa, y'all ain't going to the court date. You're not showing up. They're skipping it. That's what I'm saying. They just Trump is like, listen, we ain't got time for it. Shut it all down.
Well, some of the countries have they're like partially restricted, like Nigeria and Ghana. So I mean, there's people. I guess Trump understands that Nigerians and Ghanaians have made a significant impact in America. I mean, I live over here in Atlanta, just like you, Dynas, and I see the Nigerian community out here, man. They're business people, they're hustlers. They're getting like 5 or 6 different degrees.
Yeah, but the problem with Nigeria is what's going on in the north, which is the north is just the wild, wild west right now, and it's affecting the whole country.
Yeah, but I mean, most of the Nigerians that we see living here, they're Christians, from what I see.
Yeah, but Prince D, again, it was going on. Was affecting Nigeria is what's going on in the north, and so I can't argue with that. It's a problem.
Yeah, that is a mess.
And of course, when some of those people try to immigrate into America, they're gonna lie like a Wonderlic test. Go ahead, Seth James.
Hi, Adonis. Thanks for having me. And I just want to respond to the list that you just shown today. And I was hearing somebody say this is it's a little bit of retribution to it, but we are not the one deciding the laws here in America. So if Trump wants to ban certain country, honestly, he doesn't need any reason. All the reason he provided can be made up, So we know we're from Africa, like what Amara was saying. We went through the process in Africa. It's vague, very vague. We see people who are deserving to come to the state, they get denied and they took their money. So let's not forget that people pay to have access for an interview. And when you get denied, you don't get your money back. Okay, in West Africa right now, I believe, in Burkina, I can attest to the fee. I believe it's like $200. So if you get denied, you lost $200. You understand? If you see the amount of people that get on this line for an interview and get denied, and the number of people that get on this line and get accepted, I can guarantee you there is a little bit of discrepancy in there. But that's not, that's a choice that people make to get on this line for an interview. I can't knock the US for that. But yes, there is a little bit of retribution because some of the country don't align with the United States, and rightfully so. The United States can make those decisions. I get it. But I will wait to see how this is going to play out because I don't know. There is, and also I heard you say what reason those countries can provide to the U.S. Actually, they don't need a reason. If they want reciprocity, they can exercise that too. So you can make up a reason just like the U.S. did and send it to them.
You're correct. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, you can't. If you don't want the people from certain country to come to yours, they have the right to for that reciprocity as well. So I think when it comes to the AES, we are kind of prepared to that. When it comes to the state, if you check the information, Niger kicked out the French military, the United States military about 2 years ago, and negotiation hasn't produced anything. Same for for Burkina Mali, they sent people to have negotiation about terms that both parties couldn't agree on. So this was expected. So I'm not surprised that this has happened. Unfortunately, I don't know how what will happen next, but I can guarantee you that this is this is not going to resonate well for the American that live on those countries because you know Trump is doing that from the people within and the people outside who own businesses who are very independent. I don't think they like those kind of news. But let's wait and see. Thank you.
All right, guys, hit the like button. Please hit that like button. The link is in the chat room. If you want to call in and add to the conversation, you're more than welcome to click on the link. Again, if you want to call in and add to the conversation, you're more than welcome to click on the link. And y'all, don't be stingy with the super chat button. All right, links in chat. When no one else want to call in, we'll go ahead and close out. Here we go. We got Jay. Go ahead, Jay. Unmute yourself.
I was gonna say you were talking about little Japan, little China, all this stuff, and I was gonna say that you got to look at the history of, say, Chinese in America. The Chinese in America have been coming to America since the 1800s, right? The Chinese are like one of the largest groups in America, foreign groups in America, something like 5.5 million Chinese, right? So they have and then a lot of Chinatowns. Or in like San Francisco. You ever been to Chinatown in San Francisco?
Yeah, I'm from Cali. But okay, explain Koreatown in LA.
Right. But I'm saying it's not a fancy place, Chinatown, right? The Koreans, remember, you had the Japanese internment camps even during World War II. So the Japanese, the Koreans, they've been coming here for a longer span of time. If you look at Nigerians, right? In 1980, it was like 25,000 Nigerians in America. Right now, you're at like 700,000, right? And so it's a newer immigrant. And the Chinese are 5.5 million, Japanese are double that. And Nigeria is the largest population in the United States of Africans. And it's the biggest African country by population. And so I'm saying all that just to
What I'm saying is, so let's deal with Nigeria. I'm Nigerian. We don't even have a national airline.
Right. No, the thing is, I'm not saying that I'm not against building a little Nigeria in America. But my argument is that
I want to say the Korean Airlines building is like in Koreatown in LA is like the second tallest building in on the West Coast.
Right. And I get all that. I'm not saying that, I'm not against, say, Nigeria doing something like that. And at the same time, you got to remember, even though Korea has that standing in the United States and has an economic base back in Korea, the Koreans the other day, I think it was in Georgia too, they raided that plant or whatever over there, the auto plant or battery plant or whatever, and treated the Koreans really badly. And the government of Korea and stuff was kind of coming out against it. And so it's a pattern in a sense with this whole thing. But so I'm not against them doing these things or mimicking other nations. And yes, Korea, but Korea at the same time too, their home base is like economically stronger than it was, and some of these things are for various reasons, like in Korea, it's more of a unified state. You don't have what's happening in the north in Nigeria in Korea, for instance. Some of these places they were more unified states. But then if you go to Korea, they talk about the Japanese all the time. The Japanese just be running up in there and treating them real bad, kicking their ass all the time. You know what I mean? But after World War II, they did some things to make things better for themselves in that country and globally. And so the thing is, some of this stuff it just doesn't. It could happen here. Don't get me wrong, but it's also how you're viewed because right now Korean art is a thing, right, in America, right, and globally, right. You got Korean automobiles, Korean appliances, right. Same thing with China, because Koreans and Japanese, especially Japanese, would be running up in China and treating them real bad, even though they had a bigger population, bigger landmass. And now China is stepping up and becoming known for art, which they've been known for decades now, uh, manufacturing, all that type of stuff. And so all those things go, food, all those things go hand in hand with you building something that people want to buy. And so that's what I'm saying. The Nigerian, as much as you want to say Nollywood, or people might want to say bad things about whatever they call it, Nollywood or whatever, Nigerian cinema, right? These are some of the ways you start this process down the road. You get your cinema out there. People get to know about you, know about your culture or whatever, right? And then if you can build an economic base, then people want to buy into success. People like things that are successful. And so as the Chinese are viewed as successful, which the Chinese used to be talked about like crap in America when they came in to build the railroads. They passed laws to ban Chinese. The Chinese Exclusion Act, look it up. So these things are nothing new that we're seeing now. But with all the immigration America has had, America has gone from strength to strength. Even to this day, American GDP is still 10 trillion higher than the $10 trillion higher than China. Korea has a GDP of maybe $2 trillion, $4 trillion. Japan probably 2 to 4 trillion. America has a GDP of 27 trillion. China of 19 trillion. So even with all the immigration and all the global police we've done and all the this and that, we have seen in this country great rewards from it. We're still the biggest economy by far. And so the question we got to ask now is, what is some of this stuff? How is this stuff going to harm us in the long run?
Harm
You know
who?
what I mean? And things like that.
Harm who?
America.
It won't harm America. It won't harm America at all.
Okay.
I
Well,
think the biggest thing is because you got two types of GDP. You got the PPP and the nominal. China's beating us up in terms of nominal GDP, and China's beating us in exports, and China's beating us in manufacturing. I'm talking about the United States now.
hold on
Nigeria.
one second, brother. One second,
Can
brother.
I just jump in real quick before my connection kind of jump out again?
Well, let Prince Steve. Prince Steve, you got a minute. I'll pass the usual business. The usual
Okay.
business calling out his
Let me just
Ghetro.
correct one thing first. China does not have a higher nominal GDP. Look it up.
Nominal.
Is this
China has the highest PPP, purchasing power parity, than anybody in the world. 40
Right.
trillion.
That's real GDP.
American GDP is inflated.
No, America's GDP is 27 trillion. China's
inflated.
GDP is 19 trillion. But PPP, purchasing power parity, how far your money goes in a country, their money goes far more than here in America, the dollar.
That explains a lot, because a lot of Americans, especially right now, man, they going through the drive-through food pantries. I'm seeing them stocked up. People ain't really living like kings right now, you know. I mean, I'm seeing more and more people in line for food. So, I mean, I could believe that in China, people are actually getting a better quality of life, and their dollars are stretching them more. And for Nigeria, it's just like what you said. Nigeria, their soft power is increasing, especially with the cinema and the Afro beats. I think Nigeria is on the up and up in terms of that. I just hope that Nigeria can at least become a $3 trillion, $4 trillion economy. It's not there yet, and they have to first get these looters and Boko Haram, these terrorists, under control, or I mean, that's gonna be a problem in terms of their growth.
I have a question for Search for Uru,
Go ahead, Link.
because you visit Nigeria very often.
Yeah.
What do you think the issue is? Because they found oil and they've had this oil for a long time. And I've listened to Dagnote speak, and you can tell that on the undertone, he doesn't want to say too much about his country. But yeah, why do you think the main problem is with Nigeria? Because they have the population,
The same
they
thing
have
with
the
Africa.
education, and they have the oil.
The same thing with Africa. The same thing with Black America. The same thing with all these Black countries is Negro sellout culture. That's the
Oh,
problem.
mm,
In
same
2020,
across the board.
2025 is not the white man. It's not colonialism.
Mm.
It's Negro sellout culture.
It hasn't been the white man or colonialism for 60 years. We've been leading for a long time in most Black countries. It's been Black leaders for 60 plus years in many Black countries, Black nations around the world. So
Negro
yeah,
sellout
so
culture.
that's what hampering everything down.
Yep.
Mm.
All across Africa.
Hmm. I often wonder how come the Saudis can do it? Not just the Saudis, but little Dubai, the UAE. How could they was sand and nothing 60 years ago? They found oil.
Singapore.
And look,
Singapore.
Singapore. Look at Singapore. Yeah. What the hell is going on with us?
The thing is with that whole thing is it's some of that stuff's kind of can be misleading, because if you look at Saudi Arabia and these places, their economy is tied to oil, right? They don't really have a diversified economy, and as oil prices fluctuate, their economies fluctuate, are successful or not successful. So they might build stuff that looks really cool and people might go and visit. They're kind of building a tourism industry essentially over there, but it's not really a strong diversified economy.
Well,
You know what I mean?
we're not talking about the oil per se or the economy per se. What we're discussing is how come these leaders are able to invest in their own nation, build their own nation, use their own resources to build their nation, and we haven't. I was listening to a powerful speech from a young lady from Africa. I think she was from Senegal, and she said something really amazing. She said, how is it the African currency is weaker than the currency in the West, but yet all the resources that the West needs is coming from Africa?
And so what I'm saying to you, brother, is that I would not look, if I was going to look at a model, I would not look at the Middle East and stuff like that for a model to follow, right? I'd be more
Those are
likely to
just
look at.
examples. Those are just
No,
examples.
I get your point. I'm not going against you like
Just examples.
personally or anything like that. I get your point. I'm just saying, if I was going to look at a model, I would not model. I'm not saying I would not 100% not model the Middle East at all. Yes, model them if they're doing good things. You're right. So I agree with that. But I'd more want to follow a model of a Korea, a Japan, Western Europe, the United States, Canada, these
No,
type of places. Now,
We need to model China. China is the only country we need to model. They're the only nation that has built it in the last 30, 40 years.
One second, brother. 1 second.
They've taken 400 million people out of poverty, dude,
Yes.
in 30 years.
1 second, brother. Let me say this, right? That China, you see, a lot of times we look to China and stuff like that because it's not what we consider a Western state, right? And because we have had issues in these countries, we don't think that these countries are producing good models, right? Now, if you look at how China did what they did not do it in isolation. If you want to find books on it, read books like Chip Wars, right? Apple in China, right? All these type of books. Mao came in and he tried to do the isolationist thing, and caused millions of people stars. Dao Xiaoping, who got persecuted under Mao, took over and opened up essentially to the world. Nixon, an American president, went over there and opened the US to China. American companies, they had free trade zones. Companies from America and stuff started going over there and producing things in the 70s. And they built on that all the way through to today. It did not happen in isolation. You see what I'm saying? Now the Chinese model, right? You have to be careful at the same time because remember, the Soviet Union went to space before the United States. People were saying the Soviet Union would take things over. But we see what happened to the Soviet Union because their political system did not adjust sufficiently for their continued success. And so I'm not saying China cannot do it, but there are a lot of people that are saying if China does not adjust their political systems, they're also going to see a downfall, right? A downturn.
We're not
right?
talking about their political system. We're talking about their economical system.
The economical system is the same as the U.S. It's the same system, bro. The money that came from the China was invested from the United States. That's how they was able to do it. It wasn't magic. It wasn't magic. It wasn't magic. Russia, hold on, bro. Russia is investing the money now. Russia is investing the money now. China is investing the money now because they need Africa. Because at the end of the day, it's as simple as this necessarily. Without Africa, the United States has no fucking power, bro. Just like France has no power. Hold on. Jesus Christ, bro. You were talking. I did not. Come on, bro. Like literally, bro. Literally.
Brother, you
like,
cut me
just
off
like
before I'm
France.
done.
What are you talking about? You were literally speaking for like a 40-minute rant. I literally jumped. You know what? My bad, bro. My bad, bro. Go ahead, bro. Go ahead. You know what I'm about to say. Go ahead, bro.
I just want to say two more things. Right?
Go ahead, bro.
If I can even remember now what I was gonna say, right? So
you
China opened up to the United States. The United States helped, and China opened up to the world. If they don't change the political system, now you said the political system. You're talking about political system. I'm talking about political system, not economics. The book Why Nations Fail, right? For instance, right? Political system is the key to your economic system. If you do not have the correct political system, your economics will falter. That's what happened in the Soviet Union, right? And I want to say one other thing. I can't remember. You guys can go ahead.
We don't have
no, bro. First off, we got people who just saying shit that don't know what they're saying. Because the Soviets collapsed out of their own financial weight. They didn't have the money, right? The reality is, if you're running a modern system, it's ran with capitalism. All systems in the world use either a system of capitalism and socialism. They all do it around the world. Even the Chinese, they even say we do capitalism with Chinese characteristics. It literally says that on their banner.
100%.
So I don't even know what you're saying. And then on the second end, the money didn't come from nowhere, bro. Our country invested the money. Like the money that quote unquote how China was able to come. They did 996, bro. They did 996 for almost like 60 or 70 years. They worked their people damn near like slavery. That is a slave time period. 996, bro. You work 6 days necessary from was it 9 in the morning to 9 in the afternoon or 9 o'clock at night. 996, bro.
Well, the bottom line is
so like no, bro. So the reality is the money is going to get invested. Now, what the Africans are going to do with it, who knows necessarily? What West Africa is going to do with the money, if they spoil the money, if they don't do whatever they're supposed to do with the money, that's it. Like that's the reality, bro. Like I mean, y'all going back and forth about things that don't really need to be talked about.
We have
can I interject a little bit? For somebody that run a business in Africa,
you know what we need? One second.
Okay.
1 second. You know what we need? If we don't have unity in Africa, then none of it is going to work. That's the number one thing. We don't have one currency. We don't have we don't open up all the borders. We don't have any kind of. If we don't get to the unified system that we need, then they're just going to keep. We don't have this power. Each country just is not powerful on their own individually to do anything. So that's the number one thing. Go ahead,
No,
brother.
I mean, it's a
can I
simple question.
interject? Can I interject a little bit for somebody that
Yes.
run a business in Africa? The basic infrastructure, power and water is missing. Start off
Mhm.
like that. It's power, water, transportation. How
Mhm.
many kilometers of roads, how many meters of roads do we have? Paved roads. How much power do we have? The basic
Mhm.
power industries need power. What China did, now you guys are well versed in China. I'm very impressed about you guys. But me too, I've been following China for a long time. What China did, yes, they invited the foreigners to come in, the big multinationals to come in. But this is what's missing with everybody else in most other places. China, the profits they had from the state-owned enterprises, they invested in roads. It's a Chinese saying that's saying "sha shu shang feng," which means if you build roads, you will get rich. They did high-speed trains. They built their roads. That's the first thing they did. They prepared, and then they brought in power. They
Mhm.
prepared the bottom line. They check all the boxes for anybody to set up shop. You got to smoothen, you got to streamline everything for people to set up shop. Then they'll be attractive.
Proper
Most other
understanding.
people in other places, when they say invest in Africa, you got to provide your own power. You got to
Mhm.
provide your own water. All that's, and really, you haven't even secured a market. You're going in, that's seed money. You're going in, you're spending money on your own power generation. You have to train your employees because the educational system might not, it's not at par. People can't even, they struggle to send emails and stuff like everything is old school on books and pens and pen because of power. You know, when you have enough power, you can run the computers, you can have software, and people can access all of their devices regularly on power you can use as a conduit. That's the key, the basics. Take care of the basics, period.
100%. No infrastructure, no economy. That's the first thing that the British did back when they took over Africa. They started building train tracks all across Africa
Now,
to transport the stuff.
I agree with that brother, and I'm glad he spoke a second ago because he's saying the things that are needed to build a successful economy and state, right? But these things come from political actions. Political actions are created by leaders who need the people to get the power that they have. If you do not need to go to the people to get the power that you have, you can take the money and spend it in Europe and spend it in America and live a lavish life and keep the people down because it's easier to control someone that has no money, has no education, has no weapons than it is to control someone that has all those things.
No, wait a minute, brother.
You see what I'm saying? And so,
Nigerians are highly
yeah.
educated people.
No, brother,
They're some of the most
brother,
educated people across Africa.
brother.
Even in America, they're the most
Let me
educated.
answer that question, right?
Yeah.
Because we go to the fact that we think that natural resources is wealth. Natural resources is wealth, but it's not the real wealth we should be focused on. The main wealth that should be focused on is the mind.
Leadership.
Because you
It's
can
all
have
leadership.
all the
Leadership.
natural resources in the world. If your people do not have the ability to use their mind and educate themselves and things like that
Leadership.
to turn that thing into products, it does not matter.
For thousands
You're,
of years,
Mhm.
people look towards leaders, kings and queens to lead them, emperors to lead them. It all boils down to leadership. And the reason why you see a country thrive and a country don't thrive, the difference between them is the person who is in leadership. The leadership, do they have proper leadership vision? Do they have leadership the characteristics that needed to grow the country, to grow the economy? It's all leadership. And if we have proper leadership in Africa, we would have been a united Africa a long time ago. Gaddafi was saying that. I think back in the 60s, there was what's his name? Krumah, I believe, was saying that. Yeah, they were trying to unite it. This is one of the reasons why they murder Gaddafi, because he was too much. Look at Libya today. It's a dead state. It came from a thriving state to a dead state. Because they classified him as terrorist, and some African leaders turned against Gaddafi and side with America. This is why that happened. So we don't have leadership, leaders with courage, leaders who.
Hey, somebody has a lot of feedback. Like, it's just,
yeah, there is.
Hold on,
I was gonna say, oh my bad. I was gonna say, with the African countries, with the raw product, the natural resources, if they can get to where they mine those resources, and they refine it, and then they turn it into a finished product, and they can take the infrastructure and make it easier for logistics, then it's a more efficient economy. And I think once Africa gets to that point, once African nations get to that point, they're just like China, because a lot of that cobalt sits down there. If African countries can build their own phones, jets, weapons, I mean, then the African countries are the hottest thing in town. I mean,
we need unity for that. Unity we need for that.
Yeah, it takes somebody.
Let me say something. Let me say something. All that is power. All that relies on power. Steady, uninterrupted power. Take care of your basics. You take care of your basics, then everything else will flourish. Africans are natural entrepreneurs, but you gotta take care of the basics.
For sure.
Look, brother, and what I'm saying is, I agree with that, brother. Take care of the basics. But what I'm saying is, somebody still has feedback, by the way. I don't know if it's
Link. I had to mute. It's you, Link. No, go ahead.
So what I'm saying is, I understand.
No, it's not. It's not Link. Hold on.
Yeah, it's still there. I muted me too, but it's still there.
Yeah, hold on. It might be Prince Steve. Hold on. There, go ahead. It's Prince Steve. Go ahead. Invisible Man, go ahead.
I agree with what you're saying. You need power and all that stuff, right? All I'm saying is how you get to that state. Like, how do you? Yes, you need leadership. That's true. You need leadership. You need some vision, but that vision is the leader of the country. But it's got to be multiple people. It got to be a bigger number of people or leaders in the country that have this vision, right? The wealthy in the country have to have this vision where they're willing to share essentially the economic success of the country, right? They're willing to allow for greater education, greater roads, better infrastructure, and stuff like that. It's not an accident that these things are not present in some states, right? It's not an accident. It's kind of like if you're a leader, like a dictatorship, you don't want to create these institutions because those institutions are going to challenge your power, right? But it does require all that. It requires education. It does require all that stuff. But my thing is, the politics is where it has to start first, because there's plenty of countries that don't have the resources. China doesn't have a lot of resources, natural resources, by the way. China really doesn't have a lot of oil. It doesn't have a lot of natural gas, but it's gone around the world making deals with all kinds of countries all over the world building infrastructure for these countries, and importing all this raw material into China that they turn into finished products and sell all over the world, right?
Okay, so let me. Can I jump in?
You're
America
right
has a lot
about
of
that.
natural.
Because
America has
they,
a lot. Yeah,
they
America has a lot
invested
of
their money
natural
well.
resources, by the way. Because
They,
if you look at America, America is the number one oil producer, number one natural gas producer, and America is self-sufficient in a lot of other things too, right? And
Not
so
really.
America is a big, but then the way the resources are spread around the country, Canada, another place with a lot of natural resources. But the way it's spread around the country because of the politics of the country, you have people up in those countries have free healthcare. In Canada, you can go to school, I think maybe K through 12, probably pretty much free. University, relatively cheap. Roads probably all across the
Well,
country,
you can't
trains.
you're comparing apples to oranges, right? Because you're talking about these white nations have protected themselves and been on the same
No,
track
I
and
could mention
path.
Japan. I could mention Japan. I could mention Korea.
Yeah, but Japan came out after World War II. The U.S. went in there and helped them because of Hiroshima. And we're not even talking. I don't want to compare anything to these. Africa has been in the hole for 600 years. Let's just talk about our people, brother. Forget all these fucking people. Let's just
No,
talk about
brother,
our
you
people.
got to look anytime
Because
someone,
no,
anytime I have a
let
discussion.
no,
One second.
hold
Let me say
on,
this.
please. You've
Let me
said
say
your
this.
piece, man. You've
Let me say this. Let me say
taken the
this.
floor for a long time. Let
Let me
somebody
say
else
this
have
one statement so you know where my position is. Anytime I'm talking to someone and they say, "Oh, don't look at anybody else. Just focus on this." Already know they're not serious in this conversation because
it.
you
Good.
got to look at models. You got to look
Please,
at other people and see
please,
what they did
please,
to learn
please.
what you need to do.
We have the models there in place. They've been around for a long time.
So which
We
model are you
know, but
looking at?
hold
Tell me
on,
which one you're
please,
looking at.
forget it. What I'm looking at is the first thing we need to do. I'll give you an example. Ethiopia just built one of the largest dam across Africa, right?
Who did
Yeah.
they do that with? Who helped them build that dam? Did they do
Hold
it by
on.
themselves?
Yes, they did. Hold on.
You sure
The-
about that?
Yeah, they did. The
Okay.
country, the population decided to put up the money, but that's not the issue. That's not what I'm talking about. Okay, how many countries are surrounded by Ethiopia that is waterless currently? Struggling to get water. I'm asking you a question. That's a question for anybody out there.
yeah, there are countries around Ethiopia that struggle for water. But
Yeah,
Ethiopia is the most China-based country in Africa that came out as a success because they hit all the markers:
yeah, I
power
know.
generation, water restoration. Ethiopia is
My
pushing towards a
my
techno
point is
state.
they're still on the African continent,
Yeah, they're
right?
still there. But if you
And
look for
you have
bright
Eritrea
stars,
they're fighting against,
bright
Djibouti,
stars, bright.
Somalia, Kenya. Not
I know.
one of these countries
But if you look at case
teamed up
study,
with
I give you,
Ethiopia.
I recommend a book where this guy do a case study of everywhere in Africa, China Exim Bank has invested, where even the BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative, has spread out. Ethiopia is the most successful China-based investment country in Africa because they hit the key markers, the basics, power generation. They put a lot of resources out there on that dam, a lot. They deprive themselves because later on everything will come back and pay back in tenfolds. But you have to hit the basics. I mean, China. Look at China, America, and Russia. The two major things they have going for them because they hit the two key basic: food self-sufficiency. Russia is a huge farm country. America is a huge farming country. Natural resources, oil. America goes abundance. Russia got abundance. So they keep the two key things you have to have: food sufficiency and power. They have it in abundance, self-sufficient. China had to build a techno state, and even at that, this is the cheapest time in the world where wind power, solar, has never been as cheap as the Chinese have got it now.
True.
Are we going to take advantage of these places? Ethiopia is the bright star because they only see China are good at building dams. You understand what I'm saying? Ethiopians, they look at they look at the key industries. They say, okay, we're gonna tackle the bottlenecks. We have to take care of power. You know, when you take care of power, everything else flows. The people are natural entrepreneurs. Look at China. You know how much the cost of electricity is in China? An eighth of the power generation, the eighth as much as it costs in America. That's why in America, they say in certain industries, America can re-industrialize because they can't compete on basics, power. Look at AI. America wants to build data centers. China's building data centers, but because the power is so cheap, you can't compete. I'm telling you, you hit the basics, man. Transit, roads, power. Let the people organically build.
Hey, guys, let me pass somebody some other. Invisible Man, go ahead. Then I'm gonna pass it to Pharaoh. Go ahead, Invisible Man.
Okay, I think that both the power and the power argument are needed at the same time, because you're not going to be able to build the infrastructure if you don't have the leader. But the infrastructure, the power, the water, that's and the road system. That's the most important. When I travel around to some of the countries that don't have those things, and I can tell you one of the most frustrating things was the fact that I was getting asked for payola for almost every 20, 30, 50 kilometers leaving Freetown to go up to Kono, right? And I just gave my man, who is actually from Detroit, so I gave it to him, and he's Sierra Leonean, and I said, you deal with it. But from that trip, I'm like, you know what? I can't deal with having to do this payola every time, because it's the army or the guy that's in the army that's using the bayonet to try to put fear into me to say, here's the payola, right? So it's the power and the power. So you need leadership so that won't exist. And then you also need all of the infrastructure that is necessary. So I always come on these things and say that, and my man from Sierra Leone who is in Detroit ought to know that there are Black people in America that own a lot of manufacturing. They're suppliers to the big three, or now the big two, but they're automotive suppliers. There are people there that have built the Great Lakes water system, which is we have two water systems. We didn't need it, but we have two water systems. And I say that to say that the expertise is there. And I think there's a willingness for Black Americans, especially those who are at a retirement age and that want to say, hey, I'm looking for a new thing to do in my life. And you got these engineers, you got these guys that were in manufacturing, you got these people that were in operations, et cetera, that would maybe say, okay, I'll go over here, but you got to have that infrastructure that's there. So how do you pay these people, right? And the cost of gold, or the price of gold, has gone up higher than any Bitcoin has gone up, or it's matched it over the past year. And you could pay these people through gold and they could just put it in their bank account. So the resources are there. You don't necessarily have to say, okay, because Sierra Leonean dollar, I don't know what it is, but it's not worth anything compared to what you might give these guys in resources. And then they can go and they can use that as the payment system. They can use that as the payment system to bring the machinery in. And I'll give you another example of how I thought being and because I was both in Uganda and in Sierra Leone for a long time, or for an extended amount of time, as I was driving up that road from Freetown to Sierra Leone to Kono, what I saw, I got to the big mines, but what I saw on the road were people that were doing alluvial type panhandling, looking for gold, because I mean diamonds, because I mean it's so rich in that mineral. And you can go to a hardware store and buy a drill that can go down 3 feet into the land, but they didn't even have that. Now you might have it now, but that something as small as that would probably help people in the mining aspect of things. But I'm talking about big pieces of equipment that would be necessary to build a water system, to build roads, to build power plants, that kind of thing. If you reached out to people, Atlanta is another place. I got a friend, he's dead now, but he was one of the biggest architects around the country. He designed Hartsfield, parts of Hartsfield. He built the architect for the Jamaican airport. And so you have these people, all you have to do is reach out. I have another friend that is has a law firm, did all the bond work, was the first Black law firm that did the bond work around the United States. Very astute in financial practices. He has actually gone to some African countries in order to try to build up business ties, right? Lewis and Clay, I think that's it. Lewis and Clay. I mean, I say that so if somebody wants to call them, you got to pay big time. But there are people that want to go over to these countries and do the business. And if it were me, I would be trying to make those ties. I would even get back into it, to tell you the truth, if I saw where somebody was going to be willing to listen and then maybe put something willing to have a contract and pay on that contract. But I think what all of you guys are saying is that there was an American guy that says you got all the resources. There's another guy that said it's the political power. And then there's another guy that says you need the actual power in the infrastructure. You need all of those things together, and to argue amongst yourselves as to, what you need. It's the chicken and the egg, but all of them have to come together at some point for you to move. And then here's the other thing that I want to ask. I don't see America coming to anybody's rescue. I don't see Russia putting in the investment, and I don't see China necessarily putting in the investment in some of these countries. So you got to figure out, well, we're on our own, so we have to do it by ourselves. We're not China. And to be honest with you, the reason that America went into China is because there were 1.2 billion people, and they saw that as purchasing power for American goods. It's actually worked in the opposite. But you got to understand that America's not going to invest until possibly that you make some strides in how you govern yourselves and then how you build up your business. So I think the best option is for the guy in Detroit to look at some of those, because I will tell you, there are plenty of Black engineers, plenty of guys there were Black construction companies even in the 70s. There are architects, there Atlanta, there's Detroit, there's DC, there's the construction company in DC. That woman has the biggest construction company, and she's a second generation construction engineer, biggest in the world. I guarantee you, if somebody were to approach her and say, okay, we need this done, and the only way we can pay you or we can back this up is with minerals that then she can actually use in order to get paid, and there's no problem with America in that process, that she would be right there. McKissick is the construction company. Black woman took over from her father. And those are the type of ideas to me that I think you could use in order to start the growth where Black Americans might say, you know what, we're willing to come on over there if this is going to be the process, and we know the process is going to be smooth.
Thank you for bringing up Sierra Leone.
Well, hold on. Let me Who's talking? I'm talking. Let me read the super chat at JC. Thank you for that. Dinas, please advise Frank Zainu. He'll explain at length the reason why Africans can't develop their nations. I'm gonna have him on. I'll have him on. All right, Pharaoh, go ahead, Pharaoh. Then we're gonna close out.
Oh yes, peace, Dinas. Peace to the panel. Yeah, I was listening in, and I can't really speak on, what's going on in Africa, but I can speak on, the Africans here in Atlanta, because I live in Atlanta, and I'm real deep into the Pan-African and pro-Black movement here in Atlanta. Kind of getting away from that because I see a lot of flaws in fakery and corruption going on. But
Pharaoh, so after you finish your statement, let's go back to that. But go ahead.
Yeah. And I have to be honest, because a lot of brothers and sisters, because of these anti-African movements going on, FBA, Hebrew Israelites, etc. They try to make Africans feel uncomfortable coming here to Atlanta or to America, and because of some lies and some miseducation that has been told, because the lie is that all Africans sold us into slavery, but if you're a historian, history, you'll know that that's a lie, because the Africans who were selling the slaves were a minority. Those were the Africans who were in power, who were kings, and a lot of the from my knowledge, all the slaves were not sold. Some of the slaves stayed in Africa and they were servants to the kings in Africa, and some of them were sold. And even the slave trade before this, the sub-Saharan, trans-Saharan slave trade, those slaves were being transported within Africa. And at the end of the slave trade, a lot of those slaves did not get sold because the slave trade ended, and they were not able to sell those slaves to the Europeans. So many of those Africans in Africa and coming down here to America, a lot of their ancestors were also slaves in Africa. So when you get amongst your brother, when you get amongst your brother, African brother and sister here in America, that is your brother by blood, because 9 times out of 10, his ancestors were also slaves in Africa, or he or she came from a tribe that had nothing to do with the slave trade, because not all Africans were selling slaves. So please, Black American brothers and sisters, get this fantasy out of your head that all Africans sold our ancestors into slavery. That is a lie. Most of the Africans that come down here, they are our brothers and our sisters. And here in Atlanta, I have to be honest. I mean, I get most of my interactions with Africans is very positive. Okay, most of my negativity is coming from my own people, the Black Americans. I get more negative energy from them than I do Africans, because a lot of these, especially these young brothers and sisters here in Atlanta, okay, a lot of them have no honor. They lack honor. They care nothing for African culture, African history. They all into this new age, hip hop, Young Thug, Lil Wayne, rap nonsense, you know, and they care nothing for African culture, and that's why they try to keep up the disrespect. And I attend the Malcolm X Festival every year at West End Park, and I go there and I dress as Pharaoh. I dress in my ancient Egyptian attire, and I go there representing Nile Valley culture, and I get the most respect from the Africans. You know, the Africans who are there walking around or selling their goods at in their vendor booths. You know, I get much respect and more love shown to me by them than I do from Black Americans. You know, and that's why I say, you know, Black Americans here, they need to be educated, because you know the situation is out of control with these young brothers and sisters. And you know, you got the brothers in the Black Power community just begging, oh man, we need to go to war, and I tell the man, no, we don't have to go to war, because you know, if you go to war, a lot of blood is going to be shed, a lot of people going to get hurt and die. All we have to do to avoid that is do the right thing and teach the truth and unite, you know, and all that can be avoided. But I just wanted to say that, you know, don't believe the lies coming from the Hebrew Israelites, you know, the FBA, that, you know, all Africans sold us into slavery, because that is a myth, that is a lie. You know, like I said, read and study history. You'll find out that, you know, a lot of those Africans had nothing to do with the slave trade, and some of their ancestors were also slaves in Africa. But yeah, I'll land there.
All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and close out. Everyone, thank you so much for joining. Like, share, subscribe. Until next time, family. Dynasty Mirror, search for Huru. Peace.
Danful offers unparalleled, curated, and bespoke tours across Africa for travelers seeking genuine cultural experiences, enriched with magnificent sights, sounds, and flavors found on the continent. Each trip is reliably curated to ensure visitors are gifted with an immersive and authentic adventure. Whether you find yourself strolling along the charming white sand beaches of Sierra Leone, feasting on the mouth-watering delicious foods in Senegal, observing or partaking in various aspects of the Isheshe traditional system Ifa native to Yoruba land, Nigeria, with Danful, you will rediscover a fulfilling sense of kinship to the true heart of the motherland, her communities. Our core values focus on integrity, quality, safety, and sustainability. We are uniquely committed to assisting with the advancement of African infrastructure and promoting African businesses, so both travelers and the communities they visit receive beneficial exchanges. At Danful, we understand the importance of connectivity, and we have created a model which provides bespoke experiences based on your passions or hobbies. With us, expect a long-lasting spiritual bond between you and your destinations. Live, love, Danful, Africa. To learn more, visit danful.africa.